Hello friends, I love to listen to American YouTubers and every so often they mention French stuff. French beans, French fries, French toast, French crepes, dressing, onion soup, cloves, French walnuts, and so on. And it's not all about food. It's also about home decor, like French doors, French garden, French desk, or clothing and accessories, like French lace, French knot in embroidery, not to mention French manicure, and I have no idea where it comes from, or French parenting, or even French kiss, and last but not least, French touch in music. So there are a lot of stuff from the English language that are labeled French something. And it mostly talks about creativity. In my last video about the Olympics historical venues, I explained how we were able to reuse venues that were built 124 years ago. Most of the French stuff I mentioned come from a place of scarcity. For instance, pain perdu literally means bread that is going to go to waste. So instead of having dried bread going to waste, we used it in omelette. And for the French onion soup, it's how to make a soup with no vegetables, if you think about it, because you have only one onion and you put it in the soup. So most of it comes from a place of scarcity, whereas French doors come from a place of luxury, because we wanted to get as much light as we could inside the homes, inside the palaces. You remember, Versailles was everything about mirrors, light and glasses and French doors, and that comes from a place of luxury or a need of change. French wallet comes from a place of how to get things done differently and how to get everything in the same place. Same about the French loaves. The French loaves were invented because Parisians were able to go twice a day at the bakery and get fresh bread. And this bread was smaller, so you don't have to carry a big bread of 2 kilos back home, but you could instead get twice a day your French baguette, and with the baguette you would have more crust. And I mentioned that in the 70s, when I grew up, we had, during the oil crisis, we had an ad on the air saying, in France, we have no oil, but we have ideas. And this still rings a bell.
The 70s is also when the Centre Pompidou itself was being built, and it's a real work of modern art in itself. The colors of the pipes in the Centre Pompidou have a symbolic meaning. Red is for communications, blue for ventilation, green for water, yellow for electricity. As you see, it's only piping. The small artwork that you see at the top of the blue pipe is made by Invader. Invader is an artist behind the small, often numerous mosaics that you can find on the walls of Paris. There are 1,500 in Paris and 4,000 worldwide. Invader's aim is to bring art to the streets. He defines it as urban acupuncture. Invader describes himself as a UFA, in a nod to UFOs, UFA meaning unidentified free artist. And like Banksy or the Daft Punk, he remains anonymous. Invader was inspired by Space Invader, the Japanese game created in 1978. Of course, the best example of creativity in Paris is the Eiffel Tower, but I have made a whole video on it already. Another example of creativity is the Musée d'Orsay. The Musée d'Orsay was at its creation at the beginning a train station, and then it got transformed into a museum. Even if French are well renowned for creativity in cooking, we also have a lot of creativity in the public space. These pies are incredibly beautiful. Even if they are not the best one ever, they still make a big difference. We can more broadly define creativity as the ability to express what is unique and what translate in the most sincere way. Creativity is not a talent, it's a habit, an attitude, a way of being that can be learned and cultivated. During the Olympics, this exhibition was funny because it was held in a space turned into a pool as if you were under the water in the pool. In the 90s, we have the French touch in music, and it's a movement with many French artists renowned for their electronic music. We can talk about the Daft Punk with their helmets, Air, Alex Gopher, and so many more. It's a middle ground of funk, disco, and Afro-American musics, up to house and electro. It started thanks to home studios, and the French touch music is all about this kind of DIY creativity. It's a whole art trend in itself.
It's also funny to mention that the word bougie, which is used in the American language, and I'm not sure if I understand it correctly, is it like classy or is it like m'as-tu vu, like showing off? So the word bougie for me is not very well defined in the English language, but I can understand that it comes from the French words, and the French word is bourgeoisie, and bourgeoisie means well-off people that have gained their status through work. Bougie also means a candle, so that's funny to see how we can relate the English and the French version of the word. So there you have it. Many French examples of creativity going through the language. This is a proof that everybody can be creative and that you too can think outside of the box. So that's why I'm passionate about the mechanical process of creativity. So how does it work? First, you have to identify a problem and identify what you have on hand to solve it. Then you have to let it sit and see, doing other thing, what will happen. Third, you have what we call the Eureka effect, that your brain connecting dots and creating a solution for you. Just you don't have to do anything, your brain will connect dots. And then you have to check if the solution your brain gave you is good or good enough, because the brain stops creating ideas when it finds one. So don't stop at the first idea.
And this is why there is a quote from Albert Einstein saying, "Intelligence is creativity having fun."
And I happened to talk to the Professor Nakash before a meeting, and he was telling me to tell my teenagers that everything is possible, and he insisted really on that. He said, tell them that everything is possible. There are more about French creativity. Did you know that we invented the visa? More precisely, we invented the chip card back then in 1974, and it was patented by a French man. We invented the balloon, flying with men. I mentioned it in the video about the Olympic cauldron. We invented the sewing machine.
1813, Joseph Collin came up with the idea of packing sardine in iron cans. Sardine, you know, the little fishes. And this idea was to transform the canning industry. We call it une boîte de sardines, a can of sardine.
We call that boîte de sardines. And it's a word we use when you want to say that in some places it's very crowded. You can say, well, we were like in the fish box. In 1785, it's a Frenchman that discovered the properties of the chlore, and it became a useful everyday life with l'eau de Javel. The first calculator ever invented was called la Pascaline, and it was invented by Pascal in 1643.
1890, the Frenchman Clément Ader was the first one to make an aircraft fly on a length of 50 meters.
20 centimeters from the ground, which was little but a big deal. And in 1816, a man, Knit, was the first man to create a picture. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video about French stuff and this creativity process. I'm sure you are a lot more creative than you think. Everybody is. Until next time, thank you.